we are back today finally getting back to this. Took a little bit of a break from this, maybe like a week or so off from recording these, but I pretty much just had to go back, and when I initially did all of these, there was basically like these graphical issues that I had with the capture card where I didn't have my settings set correctly on my capture card, and so the frame rate and like the thing itself looked horribly blurry. So I had to redo a lot of the cups from the first time that I recorded them. And I was sitting here, and once I was really starting to get back into the series, I realized that, I hadn't finished actually recording all of the cups, so I spent some time actually getting through all of the DLC cups, so now everything is all set and recorded, and so now I just, kind of gotta get around to actually making the episodes, which easier said than done sometimes. I've been a little sick lately, so sometimes I just haven't been as motivated to get up and do stuff, but feeling pretty good right now as I'm recording this, so. But I think this cut is very interesting in the sense that, the last cup that we went through, being the egg cup, kind of started this trend of some like specific themes, obviously the egg being like a Yoshi theme, and it kind of doesn't necessarily stick to the theme except for the last course, if that makes sense, because I guess in the egg cup they had like that Yoshi course as the very first one, but I feel like typically a lot of these like specific ones that are based on very specific games kind of only have one like themed core map as the end course to kind of like top it all off. This one being the Triforce Cup, you got the Legend of Zelda Cup at the end, and honestly it's a lot of fun, and it's one of me and some of my other siblings and friends' favorite maps. At least, somewhere in like the top 20, which may not sound like a lot, but it's like, considering just how many courses there are in this game, I feel like that's a pretty good spot to land in. But in terms of, just the Triforce Cup and like the themed cups, I think they're, a lot of fun to kind of have these outside. I'm trying to think what the right word is. I guess franchises or series or IPs, whatever you want to call them. Basically just, outside of just Mario. It's kind of fun that they did some stuff with this, with Legend of Zelda and Animal Crossing. And I'm, kind of torn in a way with World kind of, removing that style, and from the sounds of it, they sounded like, pretty adamant that they're not going to have anything outside of, that kind of fits directly in the Mario franchise. Anything like outside of that, they don't plan on kind of doing the same thing that they did with this game, and I'm kind of torn between that, because on the one hand, like, I totally get it that it's like, it is Mario Kart, might as well, focus on the Mario aspect of it, and then, characters like Donkey Kong can, like, get a pass, because it's like, he's, even though he technically is his own thing with the Donkey Kong series, he has appeared in so many of the Mario, parties and other, like, the other spin-off like series, so it'd be a really weird exclusion if you just left him out. So, but like not getting like Link or Villager, or other than, you know, kind of like guest appearances, at least, you know, from the sounds of it. Who knows, you know, what they'll do, because, I mean, at this point, you know, recording this, and probably when this is coming up, I mean, they still haven't announced any kind of sort of, you know, DLC on what they plan on doing with, Mario Kart World, so... But I'm kind of torn because, you know, I get it. I totally understand from this perspective of, you know, it's Mario Kart, let's keep it Mario Kart. But also, I feel like, you know, when implemented correctly, like the Hyrule Cup and the Hyrule Castle map that you got at the end of this cup, I feel like it's just, it's so much fun to, you know, kind of see a bit of, like, the expansiveness of just kind of going outside of that Mario Kart. But I will say, in terms of some of these maps, like that last Rainbow Road we played, the NES one, is my personal least favorite. And I don't think it's bad or anything, but I feel like it, you know, it's definitely the most simplistic, which, you know, makes a lot of sense, as it's from Mario Kart, the very first Mario Kart, so it's like, of course it's going to be simplistic, but I feel like it's just, you know, it doesn't quite have that Rainbow Road, like, pizzazz that I feel like, you know, we're so spoiled with nowadays. Because, you know, as much as I kind of, like, go back and forth on, like, World and stuff, I gotta say that the Rainbow Road on Mario Kart World honestly was one of my favorites. You know, I wouldn't put it ahead of Wii or probably like the N64 one, but I'd probably slot it in like third place. I thought that it was a really fun map to play, so I feel like, you know, there's always just so much experimenting with so much other things that you can do with the Rainbow Roads, and I think that unfortunately, just in terms of competition compared to, you know, direct other maps, Rainbow Road maps, that Rainbow Road just does not quite, you know, get up on that high bar that they kind of have set for themselves. But, you know, I mean, like I said, to be fair, whatever it was, the first Mario Kart, you know, at that point, there technically wasn't even a bar set. So, can't really blame them. But I think, like, there's a bunch of, like, these other maps, like this one that we're playing right now, that is, like, they kind of, like, slot in there in, like, the middle slots, where I don't think they're bad at all. But I feel like they're, you know, never going to be, like, my first choice, and they're not ones that I play super often. And, you know, while I was going through a lot of the DLC cups, it was kind of weird just going back, because I was sitting there realizing just, like, holy cow, there's so many maps that I, you know, just don't play enough, that I don't have, like, a super strong grasp on where everything is. And I think, like, tour maps especially, you know, can get a little confusing with that, because I don't know about you guys, but, like, I feel like the tour maps are always the butt end of the joke in terms of Mario Kart maps, just because they're not necessarily bad. I think a lot of visuals, they're honestly, like, pretty stunning and, like, really fun, because, I mean, it's real world places, and so there's just so many that are, like, really fun to look at, but at the same time, unfortunately, I feel like sometimes they're just too confusing. And since I don't play them enough, I feel like I'm always running into walls somewhere, because I'm just like, I don't even know where I'm going. But I really like how they kind of do these, you know, little things, like how they have the rupees instead of the coins for this map, as well as the when you're getting an item, it does like the whole classic Legend of Zelda, the da-da-da-da. I feel like it's just, you know, they just like have so many, like, honestly really like nice touches to these maps, and the Animal Crossing Cup that we'll get to, I think, next. I honestly always have trouble remembering which maps are which, but it'll be coming up here soon. Does a lot of stuff like that too, and I think it's, you know, just really fun. And even though you kind of got like some other maps, like they have, you know, a few F-Zero kind of representation maps in here, and some others as well. I feel like, you know, kind of like these specific ones that the whole like cups are specifically based around, they're just so well polished. But, you know, honestly, I feel like it's that attention to detail that, you know, really just, it makes it such a fun experience to play on. So, you know, I'm not complaining about any of these, you know, nice little touches that they put on these. I think what I would be interested to hear is in terms of, you know, kind of what you guys would like to see in new maps that eventually, I assume, are going to come out for DLC in Mario Kart World, because it's one of those things that, like, as of now, in my personal opinion, Mario Kart 8 is just blowing World out of the water, because World has a lot of, like, really cool mechanics, but, I mean, you know, with all the stuff of, you got all the stuff of, like, talk of the in-between tracks and stuff, and 8's, like, course roster is just absolutely massive, and it's hard to compete with at the moment, so I'd be interested to hear what kind of things you guys would want from some world map DLC. Like if you want some more outside maps, or just keep it Mario Kart, you know. But that'll be all for me. I'll see you in the next one.